Okay.
We have speed. We're on? Yep. Okay. Jim, going back to the question that I asked you before, on how you think that from all the work that you and Ronnie did, the result of the book and how it was received by the community, and also your personal experience through the process as to how you feel you were eventually accepted and well received as an individual by the community you were profiling in the book.
Yeah, I think people were probably a little bit suspicious of me at first. I think that maybe some of the people also probably thought Ronnie helped a lot in that respect, because Ronnie's known in the community. Ronnie co-managed Marlowe for quite a while, as I said earlier, with Dr. Bernardo Gonzalez. I think that people were a bit suspicious at first because I'm not obviously Hispanic. I'm not American as well. So, but I think anybody, I mean, Carl Perazzo paid me a compliment once. He said to me, I think Carl was reading a transcript of it, and he said, I think he showed it, he said to Carlos, I think you should really read this, because I think if you start looking at information and you start kind of going into a certain depth, people realize when they're reading it that you're actually for real. You're not just doing a kind of very surface piece of garbage. You're actually kind of really looking into the music, and I think people know that. And I think I think my obvious enthusiasm and genuine respect for this culture and music is obvious. I mean, I'm a pretty, I am what I am. I mean, I don't have any, axe to grind up. And we didn't do it. I mean, one of the great things I think with Ron and I mean, obviously we need to make money to live and we need to survive, but we didn't really do it initially setting out just to make money. We did it, actually I did it because I wanted to achieve something, and I think Ron did too. We wanted to achieve and accomplish something, because it's not easy to produce a book, particularly a book as heavily illustrated as this, where you have to do a lot of photo research. You have to did over 100 interviews with various people, had to wait for people like Carlos to come on board, and had to wait. His schedule was ridiculous at the time. He was doing all his stuff, from Supernatural and Shaman, etc. And obviously getting people on board. I think that people respect the book. I think it's the best thing. I've had 6 books published and some other graphic novel stuff. I think it's the best thing I've ever done in my life, in a way, because it's a quality product. I'm not just saying this because I did it. I've always said to Ron, my criteria for anything is, if I hadn't done this, would I like it? And I like it. So in answer to your question, Ray, I think it's given me an entree. It's really broadened my life. I mean, I can come to America now, and I know a lot of different people over here, and I can talk to them about music. I can talk to them about their lives. I think one of the great things about doing the book is you actually realize that we've all got the same problems, really. Generally as humanity, we've all got the same problems. We've all got the same issues in life.
So we've got, from the time that you've written the book, we're now on the 5th annual event.
We're just coming up to the 5th show, yeah.
Oh, this is the 5th year, so we've had 4 previous events. And if you look at the events that have transpired from the time that you've written the book, now going into your 5th year, could you give us just a general overview, or how the results or the effects of the previous shows up to this upcoming show, as a result of the original work that you and Ron put together in the book, and how this is produced these wonderful events up to the upcoming event. Maybe you can give us a general, your general insight and feeling from the first event to where we are now.
Yeah, okay. The first show, I know I can speak for Ron as well with this, but he'll tell you his own side of it. The first show was unbelievably intense. I can only imagine what it must be like for people that are famous, quote unquote, to be, if you're in the eye of the storm all the time. It must be ridiculous. It must be just so overwhelming, because that night we met a lot of people we hadn't met before. I had to sign about 200 book copies or whatever, and I know Ronnie was signing, and we were racing around. I didn't even have time to change my clothes for the show. We both spoke a little bit on stage. It was an extraordinary evening. It really was. We got a wonderful telegram from Carlos Santana with a 6-foot bouquet of beautiful lilies. We it was just mind bending. You know, we had the original Santana band that night. Would Neil, Carlos couldn't make the show. We had Brazilian dancers. We had a beautiful conga circle with 6 of great conga drummers, led by Carol Steele and John Santos. The first year's show was extraordinarily mind-blowing. It was the first thing of its kind. People said it was like an old Fillmore Bill Graham type thing. It was very open, very free, not disorganized in any way, but just it had a kind of feel you don't get at a lot of shows these days. Everything's become very corporate in the music industry now. I think corporatization's killed, you know, I don't want to go into a big thing about that, but it's killed a lot of stuff in the industry, it's bled the life out of it. And I think it was like saying music. It was free, you know, Lydia Pence, the Marlowe Band, the house band was playing some great Latin stuff. It was a wonderful, wonderful show. And I think nobody that night realized that because people loved the show so much, it was going to lead on. But we've had, you know, we're leading up to our 5th show this coming Saturday, but we've had 3 other shows after that, which were all very different and all had a different flavor. But, you know, thanks to Bernie coming on board, Bernie suggested we make these, you know, from the beginning, that we make these shows. Alex Speaks, which is an autism awareness charity, which is a very current and also a very significant learning disability. I'm sorry, I've kind of not quite, don't want to talk about autism too because I don't, but Bernie can tell you more about that later. But basically, the framework for the shows is the autism charity, but it really, you know, the second year was extraordinary as well. We had, was that the one with Dolores Huerta? The shows bleed into each other sometimes, you know what I mean?
That's okay. General overview.
Yeah, general overview. I mean, the shows, every year we seem to have topped ourselves with the shows. I mean, we've had surprise guests, like last year we had Sly Stone and George Clinton turn up for a very impromptu version of Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again, backed by Los Lobos, which you'll never ever see anywhere again or since or before. That was quite extraordinary. We've had Lenny Williams from Tower of Power. We've had Carlos Santana appear with his son's band, Salvador Santana. Carlos came in early, played one number and then split. That was quite extraordinary, having Carlos come in and play early in the show and leave. You don't get that kind of thing happening that often. We've honoured some incredible people. We've had Dolores Huerta from the Farm Workers Union, who was also on Hillary Clinton's campaign trail last year, talking a short and very heartfelt speech about Latin music and Latin culture. We've just had so many great musicians who've given their time, you know, for a charitable cause, but also it shows to me, it reflects to me the kind of beauty of the book, and just the incredible energy of the music. I mean, you cannot fault this music in any way. It's exciting, it's beautifully played. We've been very fortunate that we've kind of got our own Voices of Latin Rock review. And I was fortunate enough to go to rehearsal last night and watch Carl Parazzo, who's Santana's timbali player, put together a fabulous show, an absolutely fabulous show. You know, we've got a really great lineup this year. We've got the revamped Azteca. We have War playing, you know, Lonnie Jordan, you know, and they've had, you know, 20 top 10 US hits. We've got our own Voices of Latin Rock playing a very tight set with guests. And we have Los Centonles, and we are honouring women in Latin rock this year, which is fabulous. We've got Rita Gentry, who works for Santana Management. She's the associate director there at Carlos's office. We have Wendy Haas, who's a keyboardist and vocalist for Azteca, but also played on some very significant recordings back then, Caravanserai and Welcome by the Santana Group. She was also part of Attitude, another band which released an album called Giants. She did some other things, and now she's been out of the business for quite a long time, but she's coming back for these shows. We have Sheila E., who's not only an extraordinary trap kit drummer who played with Prince and has had a good and successful solo career with her own Glamorous Life, a hit and other things, but she's also an accomplished Latin percussionist, congas and timbali. She's the daughter of Pete Escovedo, who's running the Azteca thing. And we also have a fabulous vocalist, an Afro-American vocalist called Linda Tillery, who was very active in the music scene back then and still is with a cultural heritage choir. But she, back then, was in a very locally, regionally influential band who didn't really get too known outside of maybe this area called the Loading Zone, which had people like Dougie Rauch, Tom Costa, and I think Wendy Hass, again, cropping up, going back to Wendy Hass, she was in the Loading Zone as well. So, and Linda has got a wonderful, great soul voice. We've been really fortunate. I think that, you know, I can't speak for Ron. Well, I mean, I can in a way, but I suppose, you know, these shows have exceeded our expectations. And I think that, you know, the fact that this year we're going to the Warfield, it's a bigger venue, bigger capacity, just shows the growth of this thing too. Who knows where it's going to go? Mm-hmm. Who knows where it's all going to end or go?
Well, let me ask a last question.
Okay.
When you think about some of the most important songs, and through the 5 events, I mean, leading up to this year's event, the 5 event, can you point out? I mean, you've done all the research, and just in your opinion, could you just give us an idea of what you think, in a historical perspective, are, you know, key songs that have been performed in some of the shows in the past, and some of the songs that will be performed in the upcoming event?
Well, thinking of the upcoming event, our own band Voices of Latin Rock, which is led by Carl Perazzo. I mean, Carl is starting the set with Para los Rumberos, which, if you don't know, is actually a song by Tito Puente, and was originally taken to the Santana 3 sessions by Coke Escovedo, who was kind of part of the band, a sideman at the time. He was playing percussion with the band. He's now passed on, but he was the guy responsible for forming Azteca with his brother Pete. Para los Rumberos is a song which means for the rumba players, and a rumba is a Latin rhythm, which you may or may not know, and it's a very fast, this particular song is a very fast rhythm, very exciting, features wonderful conga, timbali and drum breaks by the ensemble. It's a very significant number. It was, as I said, it was the last track on in album times, the last track on the second side of the vinyl release of Santana 3, and it closed that album on a very high note. And it was, again, it was probably the first time, obviously along with Oye Como Va, that people, the wider rock audiences or the wider record audiences at that time were starting to hear authentic Latin music and not really watered down stuff too. I'm not talking about the Edmundo Ross show band shaking his maracas and stuff. I'm talking about seriously hard-hitting Latin music done with the Santana twist, with electric guitars and trap drums and that. So Para los Rumberos to me is a significant tune. They're also finishing their set with Everybody's Everything, which is another cut from Santana, the 3rd album, and that was a single that went Billboard top 20 back in '71. And again, another very exciting number with a very great drum kind of track to it. Again, a hybrid kind of Latin thing. You wouldn't really call it an authentic Latin rhythm. It's kind of an amalgamation of the way that Santana used to put lots of different things into their rhythms and kind of come up with a very unique slant on Latin music. They're also in our set, we're also looking at a song called what's that song, Ronnie? The song by El Chicano? I am a special woman. What's it called? No. From the El Chicano song that Lydia Pence is doing. No, You Got Me Humming. What's the other song?
The other song that she's doing is I'm a Strong Woman. Or
I'm a
Good Woman.
Yeah, right. The other song is called I'm a Good Woman, which was originally done by El Chicano on do it again.
Take it, yeah, right from the original song.
Yeah, the another song that the Voices of Latin Rock Ensemble.
Okay, take a beat.
Another song that the Voices of Latin Rock Ensemble are doing at the 5th show is I'm a Good Woman, which was originally recorded by El Chicano on their Revolution album, I believe, when they were on MCA Records. And it's a song that was originally sung by Ursi Avisu, who was a member of El Chicano for a little while. She then left. She's now working with what the fuck? What's that guy's name? The Buena Vista Social Club.
Right, good.
She's now. Let me try that again.
Yeah.
Ursi Avisu. She's now working with Rai Kuda on a project. Who's famous for Buena Vista Social Club and the Chavez Ravine projects and many others. We have Lydia Pence, who's revamping the number for the show. She's also doing a number by Cold Blood called You Got Me Humming. These are all songs that were all part of the kind of Latin rock, kind of milieu at the time, if you like. Other songs in the set, we have some Marlowe songs as well. We have Cafe, Nena, and we have another song which was a Latin lovers anthem called Suavecito, which means sweet like sugar. And that was a song that really broke Marlowe. That was a Billboard Top 20 hit, number 18, I believe. Not totally representative of Marlowe's sound. They're a lot tougher and heavier, really, if you listen to their first 3 or 4 albums for Warner Brothers. But it was a song that kind of gave them some latitude on the charts. And Azteca, the revamped Azteca, will essentially be playing numbers from their back catalogue. They released 2 albums on CBS in 1972 and 1973 respectively. One was called Azteca, the second album was called Pyramid of the Moon. And, am I okay?
Yeah.
Follow you.
Yeah, okay. And, their music was very, very, again, Coke Escovedo had a vision to put it incredibly, the band was 16 members, it was a crazy band, it was so big to go on the road really, but he had a vision to have a big band that was playing Latin music with big band influences, with soul, with R&B, with real down in the roots Mexican stuff. They're very, very superb band. The musicianship was of incredibly high quality. So I would imagine they will be playing numbers like Ain't Got No Special Woman, which was one single that was released by them, which featured the young Neil Schon ripping an incredible guitar solo on that. And also the second single, which also featured Neil Schon on guitar, called What You Gonna Do, which was a great tune, and I believe that they had a bit of success with that. They have some other really good tunes too, like New Day on the Rise, which I believe is going to be included in their set. Non Pacem, which means no peace. That was another kind of quite slightly Brazilian feel to that number. Very airy, great musicianship, great rhythm section. And so on and so forth. Do you want me to, Raymond, do you want me to mention any more numbers? I don't know what Los Centonless are doing.
That's okay.
I
think we're good.
Yeah.
Just, the one thing I'd like to just close up with, and I know I said that was the last question, but one thing, where do you see all this going? I mean, what's the future?
Well, I see the future as, I'd see the future as bankruptcy,
Okay.
civil court action.
Right.
Can you zoom?
I want to push in on that.
No.
Tighten a few numbers on
As Ronnie often says, I'm going to be sharpening pencils with my fucking ass.
That's nice.
No.
Would you like to?
No. How do I see
would
this?
you like to promote the law firm that's representing?
Yeah. No. Basically, Ray. How I see this going is I would like to.
Let me just start. I obviously what I'm saying is I mean, what do you feel is the future for the whole Voices of Latin Rock project?
The future for the Voices of Latin Rock project has got many.
Do that again.
The
YouTube.
the future, I would say, the future for the Latin Rock project, Voices of Latin Rock project, is pretty manifold actually. As I said earlier, Ronnie and I originally had a 4 or 5 year plan, which seems to be coming to fruition now in the sense that, first of all, the book was, as Ronnie said, the branches of the tree. The book was a kind of calling card. Here's what we've done, and we want to build on this. We want to stage these shows of a very high quality, representing old and new Latin music and heritage. Not only just music. We've had, Chuy Varela, Jesse Chuy Varela, who compares the shows, is a well-known Latin historian, radio DJ as well. So he's comes with a package of knowledge that's second to none. Jose Simon was a comedian, the first Latin comedian that started up Comedy in the Park and had Robin Williams on board with a lot of that stuff. He's now passed on, unfortunately, rest in peace. But he was compere for a couple of years too. So that showed another aspect of Latin culture, the comedic side. So the shows themselves, I think, are going to build. I think this is, me free associating here, but I think as we become more well known, I think more and more strands of Latin music, not just Bay Area music, but maybe salsa music or, maybe the Miami scene, say Gloria Estefan scene or whatever, we'll start to realize that what we do, I think that we'll become part of a much bigger wave. I think that there's going to be more interest in Latin culture. I think I'm a big salsa fan, and it's really hard to keep up with salsa. It's such a big, there's so much stuff, coming from Colombia, Disco Fuentes or other labels from there, from Puerto Rico, the timber from Cuba, the stuff that comes out of America from the Bay Area, and obviously Carlos's evolution as an artist. He's reinvented himself over the last few years since Supernatural, and he already had a 30-year catalogue, I see the Voices thing as becoming, reaching into educational areas, filmic areas, and the show, and an in-depth documentary based on the book, which would follow the book quite closely, but hopefully would elaborate and expand upon the book, because you can only put so much in, and you can, with films, a different media, you can show lots of different, you can show things in a different way than you can to a 2D experience with a book, if you like. I see recordings coming from it in different ways, maybe recordings that reflect the historical aspect of it and the cultural aspect of it, but also recordings that maybe reflect new work as well. I think it's very important that people don't, even though we're living in times at the moment that are very tight financially, I think it's important that people still strive ahead to make new music, to reflect what's going on around them in the music, and we're very fortunate to have Carl Perazzo at the moment as a musical director, who's very astute. He's he's not only a phenomenal musician, phenomenal technician, but also he's got his finger on the pulse of what's around him. He's been with Santana for 17 years, and he's a very astute guy. He's got a great band called Avance, which play kind of West Coast style salsa, and they're a superb troupe. I basically see, Ray, in answer to ask you, in order to answer your question, it's a difficult question to answer. It's got to be a slightly open-ended answer, but I think the sky's the limit. I think that if you're lucky enough to catch a wave, and we're certainly not into exploiting things in any way. We want to do everything in a correct manner. We want to do everything with great attention to detail. We want to do everything with a great passion and beauty, really. I think it's a beautiful situation. It's bigger than all of us, but hopefully it'll be guided by us in the correct manner. And I think, we've met, including you guys behind the camera, we've met some great people, and I think we've got a great team here. I think, God willing, it can only be a really bright future for this whole project. And most of all, it needs to bring, if it brings a sense of pride and a sense of pride and a sense of artistic sort of upliftment to Latin, not just to Latin people, but to anybody who loves this kind of music and who finds this kind of culture interesting, then I think we're doing a great job.
Great. Thanks.
I'd like to get my tits enlarged.
Take action whenever you're ready. Jim, tell us pretty quickly the inspiration for the book.
Hang on, just stop for a second. What are you asking me? Are you asking me to tell you the Mike Shreve story or what? What are you asking?
No, let's go to the
That's how I got
cover. Inspiration for the book story.
Well, their music, but I mean that was the first. Right, okay.
Oh, okay, all right.
The first time I came across Latin music was the Santana.
Yeah. So
is that what you want?
Let's do that one. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Ray. I wasn't quite sure what you were asking
cool.
there.
That's all right. Okay, and take 2. Okay.
Jim, tell us quickly your inspiration for the book.
Well, I guess for me, the first time I came across Latin music, which in a very convoluted and long way came to bollocks.
Don't worry.
The first time I came across Latin music
Stop.
really,
Take a breath.
the first time I came across Latin music,
Watch me. 1, 2, 3. When I give you the 3,
yeah,
start.
okay.
Level.
Yeah, the first time I came across Latin music was when I was living in West London. I came across the first Santana album when I was about 15 years old, and I was very taken with the look of the album, the artwork by the cover. It was quite exotic. It was quite a good illustration, and also it kind of hinted at some kind of mystery and something that I'd never heard before, which was actually what it was. I took it home, listened to it, and it was a very thrilling experience for me to first hear music with a lot of percussion in it, but also kind of seemed to be, to me at that time, played at a pretty high level. And it was a really revelatory experience. I think that really is what initially piqued my interest in Latin music, and it grew from there really.
When did you first realize that the project, that you were actually going to realize the project? When you first, you had an idea, and then something happened, and at that point you knew that you were actually going to move forward and create the book.
Well, like anything in life, really. Things happen over a period of time, really, and over the years, I developed an interest in all forms of music, but Latin music particularly. And in 1991, I'd come to the States with a view to exploring the mission and finding out a bit more about the people that created the music. And to backtrack just a bit before that, I'd actually kind of contacted Michael Shreve in New York. He was living in New York at the time, but I contacted him, and he was very gracious and opened the doors for me in order to come to the States and stay with Michael Carabella, who was the original conga player for Santana. Michael Shreve was the original drummer. They're the first band that made the first 3 very successful albums, sometimes known as the Woodstock era lineup of that group. And I then came to America in 1991, and from staying with Michael Carabello in Marin County, I then got to know, through a guy called Jeff Traeger, I then met a guy called Ron Sanso, who we started talking over a period of time about actually developing a book idea about a Marlowe project, which was going to be a commemorative 25-year program thing, but that didn't work out. We actually said, well, I think the idea was, why don't we actually do a book about this whole scene, about Santa Ana, Marlowe, the Mission District, how this kind of musical thing developed there, and it came from that really. It kind of came in stages.
What were the reasons you think, being not from that community, why do you think the community embraced you and chose you to reveal their stories?
Well, it may be something to do with my personality, but Ron Sansa had a lot to do with introducing me to the people at first, because I think it's, even if you're writing a book, say, about the Beatles or Led Zeppelin or groups that exist in your own society, in your own culture, I think it's quite difficult to write books about them anyway. You need to kind of sort of infiltrate their scene, if you like, a bit. But with the Latino culture over here, it's a different country and a different culture within a different country. So the introductions I had from people like Jeff and Ronnie were very important. But I think the reason that they took me to heart, if you like, is because I have a genuine love and a genuine respect and quite a good knowledge of the music, really.
From the time that you were embraced by the community to the time you finished the book, over what period of time did that take?
It was a period probably about 4 years, probably a little bit longer in terms of the gestation period about talking about actually doing it. But from starting to do the book with Ronnie visited the UK on one occasion. And you've got to remember that with the book, myself and a guy called Richard Mann, not only was the book written, it was also designed, picture researched, and all the graphics for the cover, the interior, bookends and stuff was all done by ourselves. So it was a kind of a whole package we put together from beginning to end. I would say it took 4 years. And at the time I was working in a full-time job, 9 to 5, so I was writing in the evenings and using my vacation time, as you call it over here, to come here and interview people. So it was a very intense period of time, but it took quite a long time.
How did you, how did the project, once the project was realized and you had fulfilled your realization as a book, what transpired from the book translated into the first event, which was representative of the book?
Well, things actually started happening very quickly. We actually did the book without a publisher, which is an unusual thing to do. But I impressed upon Ronnie, particularly from myself, that I didn't think it was going to be a big problem to get a deal at the time, which is how it turned out. We only approached 2 publishers. First publisher, which was a big publisher, was very interested, but we felt they weren't going to do it straight away, and we wanted to get a fairly imminent publication date. So then we went to Hal Leonard. We approached Hal Leonard in Milwaukee. Actually, Ronnie did that, and we got a deal with them fairly quickly. They were very impressed with the book. We visited Milwaukee. We met Brad Smith there, and we talked about the book, and we made sure that they were going to produce it in the way that we wanted, with the kind of right production values, and they did really well. They produced it beautifully. I mean, all the artwork was there. It was all ready for them to go. And then from there, the actual first event, the book actually was published in October 2004, and the actual first Voices of Latin Rock book launch party, as it was then known, actually happened in November 2004. So things sort of escalated pretty quickly, and we were surprised. As Ronnie's told you already, but we had the original Santana band with Neil Schon playing in the first year, a conga circle. We had Lydia Pence with the house band. We had some great stuff, and it all just fell into place very easily. We also got a lot of good media around a lot of good regional media around the book as well.
How many events do you think it would take to cover visually, if it was possible, all of what was documented in the book? How many stories and how many performances and how many songs would it take to reproduce all of the work that you
Probably
did to make the book?
Probably 100 shows. Who knows? It's very hard to quantify that kind of question. Really, it's I know what you're asking, but it's very hard to kind of come out with a real dovetailed answer to that. But it's infinite, really, I suppose.
How important do you think the style of art that you've incorporated, the images and the cultural background of the art plays in the story, as well as part of what you've covered on the music and personal stories?
Yeah, that's interesting, because if you go to the Mission District like I was today, you'll see so many murals around and so many painted walls. So many restaurants have paintings inside reflecting Latino culture and heritage, that it seems to me that it's very much part of the music and the art, are very intertwined. And one of the things we wanted to do with the book was, make sure it had a very beautiful cover, that it looked really nice. I wanted it to look as nice as those album covers, because if you look back at some of the early album covers, like the original Santana ones, the Marlowe ones, the Azteca, Sapo, Willie Bobo's album covers, they all had a really nice feel to them, and I think that the artwork was very reflective of the music and also of the heritage of the music. So I think it's very important. I think that it's, again, part of the society, the fact that murals reflect political things, like there's murals in the Mission reflecting, Cesar Chavez or the United Farm Workers logos, Black Panther things, etc. Sorry, I need to stop there. Are we getting all that, Ronnie? We're not getting.
Good. Yeah,
Okay, sorry, I was just.
I would have said something.
Okay.
It's way, that mic is just picking you up.
Oh, okay,
way out
fine.
there.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, it just put me off for a
That's
second.
okay,
I thought it was.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want me to? Okay.
Let's. We're talking about the
Artwork.
influence of art on the book, cultural influence
Mm.
and the role that the art plays in the project. 1, 2.
I think as a kid, when I first saw the album artwork to the Santana things, to Marlowe, particularly the first Marlowe album, for example, had this very iconographic picture of the Aztec warrior holding the girl, which was painted by Jesus Helguera, who is a very well-known Chicano artist. I didn't realize that at the time, but they were I thought the graphics was very beautiful on those albums, and it stood apart from some of the, say, English psychedelic stuff, which had a slightly different feel to it, was more whimsical, perhaps more surrealistic, whereas the album artwork for, say, Abraxas, for example, I think is one of the greatest album covers of all time. That was painted by Matti Klarwein, a German hipster that ended up working in New York, and he did album covers for Miles Davis, Buddy Miles, Santana, and various other people. I mean, his work, I think, was extremely visionary. I mean, a kind of mixture of kitsch and sort of halfway between kitsch and very hip, you know. But I think the artwork was very significant. You know, I think the albums were beautifully packaged and, you know, hinted at the kind of promise of the music inside, you know.
Right. You know, you have an idea of some of the songs that are going to be performed in this year's event. Could you point out a few of the songs and give us some historical significance of some of the songs that are going to be performed by this year's artists?
Well, our own band, Voices of Latin Rock, led by Carl Perazzo, is, I think they're going to open their set with Para los Romberos, which is a track that Santana recorded on their third album, which was the last album by the original Woodstock lineup. That's a significant number in the sense that they were also paying homage to Tito Puente. It was written by Tito Puente. Para los Romberos means for the rumba players. So it's a song about people that play the rumba, which is a specific Latin rhythm. So again, it's not just a song, it is a song that's incredibly great to listen to, very uplifting, very fast, very strident, with a very heavy Latin beat, but it's also a song about a specific thing. If you really took it back, you'd see that it was actually a homage to people playing a specific type of rhythm which grew out of Latino experience and culture, probably from a Cuban base, I would think. Sorry, I forgot what the question was.
Yeah.
The band Voices again are probably going to close their set, I believe, with Everything, which is from the same album, Santana 3. That is was a hit for Santana, Billboard top 20 hit, I believe. And again, that's got a very riveting rhythm, a very uplifting song with a kind of a soul feel. And I think it was based on a song called Karate by the Emperors, a kind of a soul band, which had more of a soul feel, but Santana kind of made it into a much more driving piece of music. And Azteca, I believe, they will perform songs from their first two albums they did back in 1973 and 1972 and 73, or 73 and 74. What You Gonna Do, for example, was a single from the second album, Pyramid of the Moon. I think that they're going to do that. In fact, shall I do that again?
Yeah. Take it. What did we just lose?
The light.
Yeah.
That's the light.
And we're getting some flashing somewhere.
TV, man.
Son of a bitch.
Turn it off.
Shit.
Why did
Turn
I
the
lose
TV.
it?
Can you turn the TV off?
Yeah. I didn't know which one to use.
I don't either.
Huh? Apparently either does Ralph.
Well, there's so many
Hey,
bloody...
you got 3 shots, Ralph.
Oh, you can ask Ronnie. Is that okay, just like that?
Yeah, that's fine. It was just a flickering. It's not affecting your shot. It's just
More distracting,
it's
right?
more distracting.
Right, wait a minute now.
Ask Ronnie. Oh, there you go. That's fine, yeah.
What's up with this?
Yeah, what happened there?
I don't know. Not.
Did you turn it off because it was getting too hot or something?
Yeah, it might have.
The heat those things throw out is pretty phenomenal, isn't it?
It is.
What was that? Was that a bump?
Speakers.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
They're
Now,
naturally.
I
Songs.
bumped the camera, so I need to frame it.
Okay.
Okay.
We have speed.
Jim, tell us about some of the other significant songs that are going to be performed by some of the groups that are playing in this year's event.
Yeah, the other big band that's reformed, especially for this show, is Azteca, and they were one of the big signings by CBS back in 1972-73. They were the big signing, in fact, with Earth, Wind and Fire at the time. And they were going to be hopefully considered the next Latin rock supergroup.
Sorry, stop. Sorry.
The phone is a different pitch and it kills me.
Okay.
Speed.
No, he's still on the phone.
No, it's not that. It's just this. It's
The
the
ringing.
pitch of the ringing.
No.
The other voice isn't there.
No, he's all right.
Okay. You got speed?
Yeah.
Okay. Jim, tell us about some of the songs that are going to be performed by some of the acts this year and the significance of those songs. The Voices of Latin Rock.
Yeah, the other band that's reformed for this gig is Azteca, who were CBS's big signing back in 72-73, along with Earth, Wind and Fire. They were going to be considered the next Latin supergroup after Santana. I think they tried to follow in that stead. Obviously, they didn't last much longer than 2 years. Back then they had a very big band, 16 pieces, very big to go on the road, and there was other associated problems along with that. But their song, they developed a very good repertoire very quickly. And on the first album, simply called Azteca, a song called Ain't Got No Special Woman will be featured in the show. That was a very rousing number that went through a lot of different changes in the number, a lot of kind of little fields of R&B, very kind of big band or horn sound with it. Very great guitar solo by Neil Schon back on the early one. Again, featuring Neil Schon from the second album, Pyramid of the Moon. I will believe they'll be doing a song called What You Gonna Do, which was another good regional hit for them. There's many other songs, Non Pacem, which means no peace in English, they will be doing, featuring the vocals of Wendy Haas, who's one of the original members of the band, along with Pete Escovedo and Victor Pantoja, the conga player, and Errol Knowles, the singer, who's going to be there along with Wendy Haas. Unfortunately, Rico Reyes, the other singer they had in the band, is no longer with us, so won't be at the show. But and he's sadly missed. He had a beautiful voice. So there's some of the numbers that they will be doing. I'll just talk about Voices of Latin Rock, the band, a bit.
What about El Chicano?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, El Chicano probably were the premier band in the Latin rock movement from East Los Angeles, originally known as the VIPs. They're probably, I imagine they are going... Fuck.
It's okay. Let's start that one again anyway.
Just a minute. Just trying to think what numbers there. Viva Tirada, Tell Her She's Lovely. Ronnie?
Yeah.
What are the songs that El Chicano do? Is it Brown Eyed Girl?
Brown-eyed girl, tell her she's lovely.
Speed.
Jim, tell us about give us some information, significance of some of the songs that El Chicano is going to be performing.
Yes, yeah.
Show.
Yeah, El Chicano are a band from East Los Angeles, originally known as the VIPs, and they're probably the premier band of their time. Again, they were very, very popular in the 70s and also had a nice long run of really good albums then. The songs they're going to be performing at our show is a very good instrumental they had a hit with called Viva Tirado, which is a song, which was an instrumental song which really crossed over into the mainstream charts, and it's a really nice number, a cha-cha-cha. They're also going to be singing a song called Brown Eyed Girl, which is a version of a Latinized version of Van Morrison's song, which is really nice. I personally preferred it to Van Morrison's original. And the third song they're going to be doing is Tell Her She's Lovely, with a singer called Jerry Salas, who's got a really nice soulful voice. That was one of their later hits, but they were a band that did really well, had quite a few Billboard hits, and they've got a nice varied sound.
Great.
Good.
We're good.
Yeah.
And we have speed, so action whenever you're ready.
Okay.